slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make.
Esto de aquí, todo esto de acá, es el árbol genealógico de ella.
¿Ya?
Se supone que esta es la primera que nosotros vimos, que fue Molly. Que se supone que es donde nació en 1937 y falleció en 1947.
¿Usted vivió de años?
Sí, por eso, la niña era pequeña cuando falleció.
Virgido.
A eso se refiere. Y esto es un árbol genealógico. Ahora debería explicar la parte que yo no te voy a explicar así porque no lo vas a entender. Porque lo veas. Que es aquí. Que justo era la habitación de la abuela. Que fue, esto es lo que me dije. Odín creo que era el bisabuelo. Entonces, durante 500 años los Finch han sido famosos por toda Noruega, por su fortuna y su desgracia.
Odin Finch buries the latest victims of the family curse, his wife Ingeborg and their newborn son, Johan.
Odin Finch entierra a las últimas víctimas de la maldición familiar, su esposa Ingeborg, no sé cómo pronuncia, y Johan, su hijo recién nacido.
On January 7th, 1937, he set sail with his family and his house, hoping to leave the curse behind.
De 1937 zarpa con su familia y su casa, esperando dejar atrás la maldición. Ellos se supone que tienen una maldición, la familia en sí, de hace años.
But 40-foot waves off the coast of Washington send the house and Odin to the bottom of the sea.
Pero unas olas de 12 metros en la costa de Washington hicieron que la casa y Odin acabaran en el fondo del mar.
Odin's daughter Edith, with husbands Sven and baby Molly, step ashore on their new home, Orcas Island.
Edith, hija de Odin, junto con su marido Sven y su bebé Molly, desembarcaron en su nuevo hogar, la isla Orcas.
Odin Finch is the first to be buried in the new family cemetery.
Odin fue el primero en ser enterrado en el nuevo cementerio familiar.
His daughter Edith is already dreaming of a new Finch house.
Edith, su hija, ya sueña con un nuevo hogar Finch. Supone que la niña que está sale ahí, en brazos, es Molly, la hija de Y esa es la historia. Claro, y aquí es donde ella va marcando todo.
Whatever's wrong with this family, it goes back a long ways.
El problema de esta familia se remonta a un año muy lejano. Entonces, él es el primero en fallecer. Ingeborg. Odin, creo que se llama Odin. Ingeborg era la señora. Odin fue como el primero en que lo enterraron en este lugar. Y esa fue, ¿viste? Y eso fue lo que se me quedó atrás. Y era algo importante.
I knew Grandpa Sam had a twin.
Ya en esta parte ya dice, no se nota ahí en la letra, pero aquí dice que el bisabuelo tenía un hermano gemelo.
And that he never talked about him.
Que nunca hablaba de él.
I guess my grandpa didn't like history any more than my mom did.
Supongo que como a mi madre, a mi abuelo tampoco le gustaba la historia. Aquí van a contar la historia de Calvin, que el hermano gemelo del abuelo de él.
How I Want to Remember My Brother by Sam Finch. The thing I remember is that when he made up his mind, that was it. My brother said he'd die before he ate another mushroom, and he did.
Y así fue.
At Barbara's funeral, we swore
En el funeral
we'd
de
never be
Bárbara,
afraid again.
juramos que
And
nunca
he
volveríamos
wasn't.
a tener miedo y no lo tuvo.
I think Calvin always
Creo que
wanted to
Calvin
fly.
siempre quiso volar.
But that day, he finally made up his mind to do it. I told him going around was impossible. Maybe if I hadn't said that.
I'm not gonna tell you again.
Maybe if the wind hadn't picked up. Then maybe he'd still be here. But I doubt it. I think he'd already made up his mind. That's what I want to remember about my brother. The day he made up his mind to fly. And he did.
Calvin's story felt strangely familiar. When I was younger, I remember trying to do the exact same thing.
¿Viste?
Ahí se marcó.
Cuático.
After the funeral, Edie roped off Calvin's half of the room.
Abandonó la mitad del dormitorio de Calvin. Cuática la historia, ¿viste?
Sí. Es como espeluznante, pero
Mom
no
said
a la
grab the
vez
salmon
como
listed at
sorpresa,
18 and
como que te
never
deja
set
atrapado.
foot in the room again.
Mi madre dijo que la abuela Sam se alistó a los 18 y cuando podía pisar la habitación.
The passages were a pretty tight fit.
Los pasillos eran muy
They'd obviously
estrechos.
been built for smaller hands and bellies.
Evidentemente ha sido construido para los niños, creo que decía. No sé si tengo que ir para allá o para acá. Porque aquí yo puedo pasar.
Pero si no, se puede devolver, po, ¿o no? Sí, po.
Sí, me puedo ver.
Growing up, I always thought of Barbara as
Durante
a
mi
child
infancia
star.
siempre vi a Bárbara como una estrella infantil.
I never thought about how hard it must have been for her
Nunca
afterwards.
pensé lo duro que debió de ser para ella después. Bárbara, 1944 y 1960.
Of all the stories people wrote about Barbara's
De
death,
todas las
I'm
historias que
surprised
escribían
Edie saved this one.
sobre la muerte de Bárbara, me sorprende que Edie guardara esta.
Old Jack here with another ghastly tale inspired by America's most unfortunate family. I'm calling it The Surprise Ending of Barbara Finch. As a child star,
Bárbara era una
Barbara
estrella
was
infantil
famous for
famosa
her scream.
por su grito.
Now at 16, she was
Ahora con
all
16 años
washed up,
estaba acabada,
a has-been.
una estrella apagada.
But in a lucky break, she'd
Pero
been
la
asked to
póstuma
perform
parecía
her
volver a
signature
sonreírle,
scream at a
pues le
local
habían pedido que
convention
hiciera
for
su
monster
peculiar
movie
gesto en una
fans.
convención
It
local de
was just
aficionados
the
a
boost
películas de
her
monstruos.
career
Era justo el
needed.
empujón que necesitaba su vida.
Unfortunately, her scream
Lamentablemente, el
hadn't
paso del tiempo
aged
no había
well.
favorecido en nada su vida.
Getting better.
Un poco mejor.
I think you just need the right
Pero tú solo
motivation.
necesitas la
Her
motivación
biggest
adecuada.
fan and
Su mayor
current
fan y su novio,
boyfriend,
Rick,
Rick,
estaba a
was
punto de
about to
demostrarlo
demonstrate when...
Now that was a great scream.
Eso sí que era un
It was
gran...
Barbara's father, Sven. He'd
Pues
slipped
Ben,
into a
el padre de
cable
Bárbara,
saw
se había
and had to
resbalado
be
en una
rushed to the
sierra de esta y
emergency
se lo habían
room.
tenido que llevar a
So
urgencias.
Barbara got stuck
Así que ahora
babysitting
tuvo
her
que
youngest
quedarse
brother,
cuidando a
Walter.
Walter, su hermano
Her
pequeño.
convention
Su
comeback was
resurgimiento en la
cancelled.
convención se canceló.
Okay, I'm hearing frustration,
A
but
ver, oigo
I'm not
frustración,
hearing
pero no oigo terror.
terror.
Y si
What if I
intentara-
tried...
A gang of hoodlums in Halloween masks have
Una
been
banda
terrorizing
matona con
Orcas
máscara
Island
de
tonight.
Halloween.
Police are urging residents to...
That came from the basement.
You're
Selena
right!
tiene-
Also, I loved your delivery on that.
Me encantó
Why is your basement door locked?
¿Por qué está cerrada la
Because my
puerta?
dad
Tú
likes
sabes
making
que al
puzzles
padre
in
le encanta
secret
los
passageways.
pasadizos.
There's a key hidden in the music box.
Hay una llave escondida en
The
la caja de
secret
música.
is to keep
El secreto
winding
es no poder girar,
and winding
girar,
until finally the key
hasta que
pops
por fin
out.
salga la
Thanks,
llave.
babe. I'll be back in a sec.
20 minutes later, Rick
20 minutos
hadn't
después,
returned.
Rick no había regresado.
So Barbara went to look for
Así
him.
que ahora se fue a
Right
buscarle.
on
Justo en el momento
cue.
oportuno. Ah, ya entiendo.
She reached for the music
Se acercó a la
box,
caja de música.
and as she wound the key,
Giraba la
she
llave,
listened for
intentó oír
Rick.
a Rick, pero la casa
Was
estaba en
silent.
silencio. Cuático.
Sí.
No, yo tengo que avanzar. ¿Por qué? Cuático, sí.
She found Rick's clutch
Encontró la
and
muerte de Rick.
imagined the worst.
Y temió lo peor.
La maletita.
The gang's leader is the infamous
El
Hookman
líder de la
killer,
banda es
Dr.
el
Carl
famoso
Hamill, who
asesino
impaled
gancho,
and
el
ate
Dr.
his family
Carl
10 years ago tonight.
que empaló y después embutió a su familia una noche como esta hace 10 años. Por aquí afuera.
The old fridge rattled and grew still.
Ahí regresó. Felicidad empezó a crujir y a tambalearse.
Oh dear!
No vayan. Y le pegó.
Rick?
Barb, relax. I was just
Ahora,
trying to
tranquila.
scare you to help you
Solo
find your
intentaba
scream.
asustarte para
Well,
ayudarte
I'm not
con tu-
scared, Rick. I'm furious.
Entonces
Then
estoy furiosa.
act furious. All I'm getting from you now is that
Entonces
you're
demuestra
hurt
que estás
and
furioso.
confused.
Lo único que me
and
transmite es que estás
She
Ay,
threw him
perdón.
out,
Lo he hecho,
but
pero
she
se
kept
quedó
a little something to
algo para
remember him
recordar.
by.
Barb,
La muleta.
have you seen my other crutch?
Aquí está mi otra.
And she was still holding it
Todavía la estaba
when she
sujetando
fell
cuando se
asleep,
quedó dormida,
watching the late
mirando el programa
picture
de
show.
última hora.
Hours later,
Ahora es después.
Barbara!
Bárbara,
Walter? What's going on up there?
¿qué está pasando?
Ah! Okay, I'm coming up, but if this is a trick, you're
Si
dead,
es una
Walter.
broma, ya verás Walter.
Puta la wea.
Ay, concha tu madre. ¿Por qué son así? Walter. ¿Cuál es la habitación de Walter? No me acuerdo. Ah, esta es la habitación de Walter.
Qué bacán ese modo tipo cómic.
Walter had vanished, but his bedside radio was still on.
Orcas Island police describe the man as 6 feet tall, with a steel hook for a hand. Residents are urged to lock all doors and windows and notify the police of any suspicious activity.
Oh, Dios.
Barbara turned, saw the hook man, and was speechless. He was quite smashing. And young he was, couldn't get enough of Barbara.
Okay, Barbara. There's gotta be another way out of here.
That night, she played her part beautifully. She thought about abandoning Walter, but just couldn't do it. Molly's door hadn't been opened in years. The hinges groaned. She sensed the story might not be over yet. The hookman had vanished. She listened for his breathing, but all she heard was... The monsters had come to surprise her. For Barbara, it was a dream come true. Then she saw what kind of monsters they were, and she realized what was about to happen. She was going to be famous. And with her final breath, Barbara Finch gave the performance of her life. I wasn't there myself, but I hear Barbara was magnificent. Poor girl. She had a taste for stardom. But unfortunately, so did her fans. Of course, the police blamed it all on poor Rick, who disappeared the same night. And little Walter, hiding under his bed the whole time. He took it all pretty hard, but that's another story. As for Barbara, tucked inside the music box is all they ever found of her. Her ear. Now that's what I call a real eerie tale.
Edie told me all Barbara wanted was to be remembered, as absurd as that comic was. Maybe what Edie saw was a happy ending.
Como que no se sabe qué le pasó. Una cosa así.
I guess now I know why Mom didn't like me playing with the music box.
Supongo que no sé por qué a mi madre no le gustaba que jugara con la caja de música. Tengo que ir a ver, ¿viste? Sabía que tenía que ser así. noche, mira. ¿O no? Qué curiosidad, ¿no?
Sí, sí.
Está como más oscuro que la primera vez. Se supone que no es de terror, es como más de... como que cuenta la historia de la familia de ella, no sé. Es bien.
Mom said the basement was off limits, unless I wanted another
Nadie
tetanus
estaba
shot.
prohibido entrar en el sótano a menos de que quisiera que pusieran otra vacuna contra el ¿qué? ¿Para el tétano? ¿Alcanzaste a ver lo que decía al final?
No, pasa muy rápido.
I saw Edie sneak down to the basement
Una vez vi
once,
a Edith bajando
carrying
sigilosamente al
packages.
sótano con unos paquetes. Que se ve muy oscuro.
Debe haber un por ahí. Oh, se pegó.
I thought maybe she
Hello?
was hiding presents.
Creo que tal vez estaba escondiendo regalos.
It turned out she was hiding a lot more than
Pero
that.
resultó que estaba escondiendo mucho más que eso.
I remember asking Mom once about where Walter had gone.
Recuerdo que una vez le pregunté a mamá dónde había ido Carter.
She said after Barbara died, he got as far away as he
Dijo
could.
que tras la muerte de Bárbara se marchó lo más lejos que pudo.
If there's a pattern in all these stories,
Si todas estas historias siguen un patrón,
I think it's that none of us has gotten
me
very far.
parece que es que ninguno de nosotros hemos llegado muy lejos. Entonces, como que el niño se escondió acá. Walter.
Goodbye, everyone.
Adiós a todos.
I can't
No puedo
believe I've
creer
been
que
down here
llevo
for
30
30
años
years.
aquí abajo.
On that first day, after the
Desde el
shaking
primer día,
started,
después de
I
que
didn't think I'd
empezaran
survive a week.
los temblores, pensé que no sobreviviría una semana. Que no sabía qué decía.
But after a few
Pero
days,
a los pocos
I
días
settled into a routine.
marqué una rutina.
That's what kept me sane.
Es eso que conservara la cordura.
Having a schedule, living for today.
Uno,
I always expected to be dead
siempre
tomorrow.
esperaba morir el día siguiente.
But if you wait long enough,
Pero si
you
uno
get used
espera
to
lo
anything.
suficiente, acaba acostumbrarse a todo.
Even a monster on the other
Hasta
side
un
of the door
monstruo al
starts
otro
to
lado de la
feel normal.
puerta y hasta parecer normal.
Almost friendly.
Hasta te resulta simpático.
And then one day,
Y de
everything
repente
just
un día todo 2005
stopped.
se detuvo.
Whatever that thing was, it was
Pero lo
gone.
que fuera aquello habría desaparecido.
Maybe it got tired of
Quizás se
waiting.
cansó de esperar.
Or maybe I just got tired
Tal
of being
vez yo me
afraid.
cansé de tener miedo. ¿Qué pasó?
It's been a week now,
2005.
the longest
Ya pasó
in
una
30
semana.
years.
El periodo más largo en 30 años.
I'm done waiting.
No voy a seguir esperando.
I have to leave while I still can.
Tengo que marcharme mientras pueda hacerlo. De aquí caga.
I know it's out there somewhere.
Sé que está ahí fuera. En algún lugar. Uy, ¿qué te pasa a esta cosa? ¿Es la palanca la que está jodiendo? Como que se reinicia.
¿Para descargar?
No, no está descargando.
Whatever killed Barbara
Lo que fuera que mató a Bárbara
and Molly
y a Molly
and Calvin.
y a Calvin.
Maybe this is all a mistake.
Quizás todo esto sea.
But I need to stop living the same day, even if it kills me.
Aunque eso acabe conmigo.
Whatever's out there, I want you to know
Sea lo que
I'm
sea
ready
que
for
haya
it.
ahí afuera.
I'm going to appreciate all of it,
Voy a saberlo todo,
especially the
especialmente
food.
la comida. A
I don't mind if I
valorarlo
only have
todo.
a year left,
No me importa si solo me queda un año
or a month,
o un mes
or a single week.
o una sola semana.
I'd be happy with one new day.
Formaría con un nuevo día.
I can already imagine the sun
Me
on
voy a
my
imaginar el
face.
sol sobre mi
Walter died when I was 6.
cuerpo. Cuando yo tenía 6
I can't
años.
believe my mom never told me he
No
was
puedo
down
creer que mi
here.
madre nunca me contara que estaba aquí abajo.
I'm sure my mom was trying to protect me.
Solo que mi madre intentaba protegerme. Un cuadro. Qué bien, si no se me olvida nada más. Me dije en el baño. Tuvo 30 años viviendo aquí abajo.
Maybe she was afraid I'd end up like
Quizá tenía
Walter.
miedo de que acabara como él.
But if she never told me about an uncle under the house,
Me habló de que tenía un tío debajo de la casa.
I can only imagine what else she
Podría
was
haberme
hiding.
ocultado todo tipo de cosas.
I don't want to make the same mistakes she made.
No quiero cometer los mismos errores que ella. Eso es basura.
Trying to bury something that's still alive.
Tratar de enterrar algo que se
Now that there's only one of us
Ahora
left,
que solo queda
or
uno de
maybe
nosotros,
two,
o quizá dos.
I thought it was time I heard the
Pensé que
stories
era
for
momento de
myself
escuchar las historias personales
and found out what happened to everyone
de lo que
else.
le sucedió a todos los demás.
But now I'm worried the stories themselves might be the
Pero me
problem.
preocupa que el problema fueran las historias en sí.
Maybe we believed so much in a family curse,
Con tanta fuerza en la
we
maldición
made it
familiar.
real.
Le hicimos realidad. Ah, aquí está. Ay, esto se hizo. Se rompió.
Sí.
I don't know if I should even be writing
No
this.
sé si debería estar escribiendo esto.
Maybe it'd be better if all this just died with me.
Quizás sería mejor si todo esto muriera conmigo.
But I thought you should know about your family.
Pienso que hay cosas que se deben saber sobre mi familia.
And the history you're a part of.
Y sobre la historia de la forma que vámonos los voy para allá.
Though to be honest, I feel as lost as you probably do right now.
Aunque lo cierto es que ahora todo me parece tan confuso como probablemente alcanzable.
I think the people in these stories believed them, for what that's worth.
En ellas, por si sirve de algo.
And when you look at the house,
Cuando miras la casa,
that history of imagination and stubbornness and madness,
imaginación,
any of it seems possible.
todo eso parece posible. Está el columpio, mira.
I think we've been surrounded by
Creo
death
que
for
llevamos
so
tanto
long,
tiempo
we've
rodeados
just
de
gotten
muerte
used to
que
it.
nos hemos acostumbrado.
What kind of family finishes building
¿Qué
a
clase de
cemetery
familia
before starting the
construye un
house?
cementerio antes de empezar la casa? No me digas que se va a suicidar. Ah, no. Me asusté.
It's embarrassing for me to admit
Me da
this,
vergüenza
but
admitirlo, pero
the pet cemetery made me
el
more
cementerio de
uncomfortable than the
mascotas
human one.
me preocupa más que ese asunto.
3 of the
de los
gerbils were
humanos.
mine, and
3
2
de
had been
los
my fault.
ciervos eran míos y 2 estaban ahí por mi culpa. Con todo la mascota que tuvieron.
Sven built the house, but it was
Sven
Edie
construyó
who
la
designed the
casa, el
cemetery.
cementerio lo diseñó él. Bárbara Finch. Walter Finch. Edith Finch. Sven Finch. David Finch. Finch. Un gato. Una vez. Un astronauta. Una sierra. Un diario, un libro, no sé qué es. Una roca. Qué bonito. Una estrella.
Walter.
I'm sure Odin's monument
Seguro
had
que el
been Edie's
monumento de
idea.
Odín fue idea de Edith.
My mom was always trying to move
Madre
on,
siempre
but
intentaba
for
salir
Edie, the past never went
adelante,
away.
pero Edith, el pasado nunca se fue.
She could see it poking out of the water at low
Lo vio
tide.
asomarse en el agua cuando la marea estaba baja.
Edie said she dreamed about the old
Porque
house
todas las
every
noches
night.
soñaba con la vieja casa. Esa es la casa que se hundió.
Oh. ¿Cómo va a querer ir para allá después?
Papacito.
Edie's side was always easier for me to
Resultó más fácil
understand.
entender el punto de vista de Eddie.
But the older I get, the more I can
Pero
see
entre
where
más
my
mayor
mom was
soy,
coming from.
más entiendo a mi madre.
Her dad had been pretty strict, but it wasn't enough to save her
Su padre
brothers.
fue muy
She was
estricto,
just
pero no
trying
bastó
to
para
do
salvar
better.
a sus hermanos. Ella estaba intentando hacerlo mejor. Finch, Sam Finch, Finch. Qué pena igual la historia.
Perdón.
La historia de ellos. Milton Finch.
She lost 2 of her brothers, just like I
Perdió
did.
dos hermanos igual
I
que
get why she tried so hard to protect
intentara
us.
protegernos contra la distancia. Ah, ya. Eso igual. Milton y Lewis eran los hermanos de ella. Y de toda la familia quedó ella nomás.
Solamente Edith.
Sí. Solo quedó ella, viva. Todos están muertos.
There's so many things I wish I could ask my mom
Tantas
now.
cosas que me gustaría preguntarle ahora mismo.
Part of me thinks this is what she
Una parte
wanted
de
all
mí piensa
along,
que esto es lo que siempre quiso.
for me to come back someday
Que yo regresara
and find everything out for
y yo
myself.
descubriera todo por mí.
But looking back on it now,
Pero reflexionando. ¿Qué hora es?
Las 12:20.
Ah, ya.
Estamos bien. Estamos bien.
if she told me there was going to be so
Si
much
me hubiera
climbing,
dicho que iba a tener que subir tanto.
I never would have come when I was 22 weeks
No había
pregnant.
venido estando embarazada 22 semanas, ¿viste?
¿Verdad? Pues ahí está. Pues. Falta 22 semanas y ya está en la
Tiene
que más.
Tiene 22 semanas, ¿viste?
I never met Grandpa Sam, but I think he and my mom had a lot in
Nunca
common.
conocí al abuelo Sam, pero creo que mi madre y él tenían mucho en común.
They were both pretty intense.
Todos eran bastante intensos. Sam.
Sam spent his life shooting photos, but
Sam se
Mom
pasó la
said he
vida
got
tomando
nervous
fotos,
being in
pero
front of
mi
the
madre decía
camera.
que se ponía
I guess we're all
nerviosa.
afraid of something.
Supongo que todos tenemos miedo de algo. Eso iba a decir, las personas que muestran en la foto se ven súper reales.
Sí, como que fuera en caso capacito la web. Pasó en la historia real.
Uy,
A lo mejor es un libro este juego. No cacho cuando vio a Germán.
Instead of hiding from death,
en
Sam
lugar de
seemed to go out of his
esconderse de
way
la
to
muerte,
meet it.
Sam se esforzaba por ir en su busca. ¿Cómo?
Germán nos dijo que era caso que pasó en la vida.
Es que no vi todo el video. No vi todo el video porque si no me voy a spoilear.
Sí, no sé, a spoilear.
No vi
Sí.
nada. Vi como al principio nomás. Ok. Y yo tengo que hacer todo eso, abrir el sobre, abrir la hoja, todo eso. Se sacó foto.
Dawn, I promise you'll never forget this weekend.
Yes, sir.
These memories are gonna last a lifetime.
Este recuerdo me lleva toda la vida.
Am I gonna have to shoot anything?
Hay que tener que
It's a
esperar
hunting
la
trip, Dawn.
próxima
Shooting
sesión
is
de
strongly encouraged.
el día lo adecuado.
Shouldn't we be leaving?
Voy a buscar
Just
yo
want to get a
más.
shot of you, Dawn, then we can
Tomate
take
una
off.
foto, 15 minutos.
I'm over here, Dad.
Papá, estoy aquí. ¿A dónde? ¿A dónde está? Ah,
What?
sí.
Perfect.
Gracias.
It's gonna rain the whole weekend, isn't it? Please just take the damn
Dice,
picture.
pero toma la maldita
Hey,
foto.
language.
Esa boquita. Pero es que aquí le tengo que tomar foto, no sé.
Did you want to get a picture of me or what?
Al letrero, es al mapa.
Ah,
Never
ella.
forget this weekend, Dad.
Ah,
That's the spirit.
Así sea.
Smile, Dawn.
Sonríela.
Okay, got it.
Esta la tengo. Pues aquí
I'm
igual
gonna take some
foto.
pictures, okay?
Pero
Just
no
be
lo
careful. That camera's older than you are.
Ten cuidado, la cámara es vieja. Haciendo yo con mi cámara. Ah. Saco foto de la wea que pilla.
You're right,
tu
Dad.
cámara
it's
la
starting
tengo
to clear
acá,
up. Still freezing though.
Sí.
por si acaso.
Aw.
Cuesta sacarle fotos. Y tengo que acercar bien la cámara. No sé qué tengo. Ah, ahí está.
have drunk all that coffee.
Ay, me
Hold still.
Hey!
¿Qué te hace?
That's a keeper.
Saco una foto haciendo pipí.
I'm
Orinando.
just saying, I'm not always gonna be here, Dawn. You'll need to remember this stuff if you want to survive.
I'll be fine, Dad.
You know who else thought he was gonna be fine?
Some guy who died.
Dawn, I'm being serious.
I know, Dad. You're always serious. Doesn't being out here make you want to chill out?
Well, to tell you the truth, I haven't...
Dad!
Good eyes, Dawn. Before you take the shot, let me get a picture of you.
Dad, I...
Let me get behind you.
Do I have to do this?
Dawn, you don't have to do anything. But if you want to survive, you'll need to be strong. Now keep yourself squared up, elbows down, like we practiced. Whenever
Sí,
you're
¿qué le
ready.
quiere disparar?
Yo creo que al ciervo, ¿cierto?
Sí, al ciervo. 1, 2, 3.
Great shot, Dawn!
Qué mala.
No, está llorando.
I'm proud of you, Dawn. Always remember that, okay?
¿Y por qué la hizo hacer eso? Pobrecita.
Sorry, Dawn, just gotta reset the timer.
Lo hice mal, lo siento. Es que No sé para dónde tiene. Cuesta irse por acá.
Dad, it's twitching. I think
That's
it's
totally normal, Don. Just focus on the camera. Try not to think about.
Dad!
Ahí se murió. Por buen negocio.
Of all these stories, that's the one I
Esta
wish
historia,
most
esa es
that my
lo
mom
que
had
más
told
deseo
me.
que me hubiera contado mi madre.
After Sam died, my mom and Edie got really close. They'd both lost a
Tras la
lot.
muerte de Sam, mi madre y Edith empezaron a estar muy unidas. Las dos habían perdido mucho.
Dear Kay, do you remember the way Gregory used to laugh when he thought he was alone? Like something funny was happening, but only he could see it.
No me digas que el burbuita se va a morir también.
I think he saw things the rest of us don't.
Veía cosas que los demás no veíamos. ¿Se está moviendo el pato también? Yo soy la rana. Joder.
Time's over, Gregory. It's time
Se
to...
acaba el baño, bebé. Eso era el...
Hold on, sweetie.
Espera, sí.
Oh,
Hello? Sam, I told you I don't want to talk right now.
I wonder what he saw.
Lo que veía.
What his world was like.
Lo que era su...
He reminded me so much of Calvin,
Me recordaba mucho a Karen.
lost in his imagination.
Pero en su imaginación. Yo voy para otro lado. Ah, yo soy la rana, por si acaso.
ya. ¿Y
Whatever
qué
it
tiene que
was he
hacer?
saw,
Bueno, no sé, fuera lo que fuera que haya visto.
it sure made him happy.
Sin duda lo hacía feliz.
Amor, voy bañito rápido.
Ya. Llamada de abuelo.
I know how silly it sounds.
Yo sé que parece absurdo.
That I worried about a baby being too happy.
Preocupada de que un bebé fuera demasiado feliz.
But I could feel him slipping away.
Sorry about that, Gregory.
Lo siento, mi amor.
I know you did everything you could.
Hiciste todo lo que pudiste.
Maybe if I hadn't called that night.
Si yo no hubiera llamado esa noche.
Damn it. Hold on, I don't want Gregory to hear this.
I wish she could have told us.
Ojalá no se hubiera podido hablar
About the world he saw.
del mundo que veía.
Hey, there's so much I don't understand. About Gregory. About everything.
Sí, abuela.
But I know what happened wasn't your fault. I'm sure he's happy.
Seguro que es feliz. ¿Por qué te
Supuestamente
ríes?
la ranita.
He'd want you to
Sí.
be happy too.
Yo querría que tú también fueras feliz.
Good luck, Kay.
Buena suerte.
Love, Sam.
Con cariño, Sam. Pobrecito. Tenía 1 año, parece. La guagua.
Sí, 1 año. Oh, son puras muertes trágicas esto.
I can't imagine my mom ever writing poetry, and yet
Este fue otro hermano. Poema para vos.
A poem for Gus, who always said the wedding was a bad idea. Our father never hit us kids, at least not very hard, before the day my brother said with teenage disregard that he'd be dead before he'd see a wedding in our yard.
¿En inglés?
My father made
No,
him
eso
come,
no es
of
inglés.
course, but
De
Gus
hecho,
stood far apart.
Está al revés, dije.
Storm inside his heart.
Mi padre la obligó a asistir, pero Gus no se acercó, se limitó a volar su cometa para dominar su ira.
I tried to talk him out of it, but though he'd never met her, we
Traté de
don't need a stepmom, were the words
convencerle, pero
that
dijo, no, necesitamos a una madrastra, aunque nunca lo había visto. Nunca la había visto.
When the time for photos came, Dad ordered him to come here. But Gus declined,
Ahora
and
la
as
hora
a
de
sign
la
held
foto,
up
papá
his
le
middle
dijo, ven
finger.
aquí. Pero Gus se negó, con un gesto que no voy a repetir. Ah, ya, Pepe. Sam tuvo 3 hijos. El Sam que falleció con la cama, el de la cámara,
¿Ya?
tenía 3 hijos. La guagua, Gus y... no me acuerdo del otro. Y eso fue cuando él estaba tomando fotos. Y él no lo pescó.
Tiene que ser Darwin, ¿no? Que sale al lado.
Ah, sí. Y él no lo pescó.
The wind picked up, and panicked
El
geese
viento
appeared
se
and quickly went.
levantó y las
But all the
aves
humans did that
movían
day
las
was go
aguas,
inside the
y
tent.
todos los humanos se metieron en la cara.
The rain came down in buckets then, but no one seemed
Empezó a
afraid
caer
that nature might destroy the tent
el
our dad
diluvio,
had
pero nadie
crudely made.
preocupaba que la se acabara con la tierra en flores.
The thunder sounded much too close and full of angry power.
La tormenta
But all my
se
father said
acercaba
was,
y rugía
make
con
the music
fuerza.
louder.
Pero mi padre solo dijo que traigan más cerveza. Ojalá pudiera. Oh.
I wish that I could truly say I thought about you on that day. Out there on the beach alone, just you, the wind, the sea, and foam. But I didn't. Until we found you.
She never talked about him, but Mom told me once if I was a boy, they were going to name me Gus.
Ahora. Ah, no.
¿Qué?
No, no, no. Se veía más oscuro ahí.
¿Está oscuro? Pues mira, está de noche.
Respeto, fuerza, trabajo en equipo.
My mom moved up to the loft after her brothers died. At the time, it was as far away as she could get.
Mamá dormía con ellos.
Religion was another thing my mom never talked about, but I think it helped her a lot after her dad died.
Ella era la de pelo rubio, la que le estaban sacando fotos, la mamá.
She spent a summer building houses in Calcutta, where she met my dad, Sanjay. My mom moved to India a week after graduation and got a job teaching English. Louis was born a year later. When my dad died, I don't think Mom knew where else to go. I'm sure Edie was happy to have her back. And to see kids in the house again.
La diferencia por las plantas, ¿quién se preocupa más por las plantas que...
The house had to get a little bigger, but Edie was used to that. And for a while, things were good. Almost normal. But it didn't last. The beginning of the end was Milton's 10th birthday, when Edie gave him a castle. After Milton disappeared, the only thing he left behind was a room full of paintings.
Milton desapareció, no saben qué pasó con él.
Milton Finch in The Magic Paintbrush.
Acho, como ajo, no.
I was 4 when Milton disappeared. Mom spent months searching for my brother. Then she sealed the doors. Whatever Milton had found in the house, Mom didn't want it getting out. Mom definitely blamed Edie, but I think Louis blamed himself. After he graduated, he just spent more and more time in his room, until Mom got him a job at the cannery. Everyone always told me to stay out of Louis's room, except Louis. Louis's room smelled very, very familiar. That part of him lived on. Louis and I spent a lot of time playing games together, but he was surprisingly bad at them. He died a lot.
Dear Mrs. Finch, as Louis's psychiatrist, I can understand your desire for an explanation. As I see it, the trouble began in January, shortly after we convinced your son to seek treatment for substance abuse. Newly sober, I believe Louis first noticed the monotony of his daily life. He kept working at the cannery, but he withdrew part of himself. In our sessions, I saw the same behavior. His mind began to
Se viene brígido. para tener que hacerlo.
I asked him to describe it. He said he started small. Imagining a labyrinth. He'd feel his way about. Then something moved. Bats. And toads.
Que va a caer el laberinto.
And things that have not names. He knew it was all in his head.
Tengo que hacer dos cosas a la vez.
He took
Sí,
it very
te la cagás.
seriously. I had hoped he'd find himself. But he found something more. I worried about him then. Daydreaming at the cannery. I spoke with his boss. But he said Lewis had become a model employee. Methodical, tireless, focused. Like a whole new Lewis. So I let him go on. I even encouraged him. It seemed very promising at first. He told me he'd made a new friend.
Esto pasaba en su cabeza mientras trabajaba.
On the edge of a city he named Lewis Topia.
Está bacán el juego de... Está jugando así con su cabeza.
He built the city up slowly, brick by brick.
Él era como un
Then he
rey.
made musicians. And songs for them to play. He talked about starting a band. And he was always humming something. Every day his imagination grew stronger. He no longer spoke at the cannery. But his chopping was as reliable as ever. Then one day it struck him that all the cheering crowds, even the stones under his feet, were all in his imagination, so he could do whatever he wished. He held an election for mayor. And he won. They begged him to stay, but his mind was already wandering. It became a game for him. He'd conquer a city, then immediately push on. New Louisville. St. Louis. He started drifting away from our reality.
Estaba volviendo loco.
Minneapolis, until one day he forgot to go home from the cannery. Even as his mother pleaded with him, part of Lewis kept sailing on. In Lewisburg, he heard rumors of a beautiful prince.
Dice la misma lección que hermano.
Tú eres por el otro, po.
Es que no me di cuenta donde estaba pendiente de los pescados.
The prince was on his own quest for
serpientes siniestras, arcoíris radiante. Espérate. Ya. Tienes que ayudarme, po.
sinister serpents.
Pero que feo la está atrasado.
Ahí viene
He
otra.
followed the sound of his
Siguió el sonido de su arpa.
Arpa.
silver harp.
Él no volvió más a la realidad. Vamos a hacer.
His chase led him to a golden palace east of the sun and west of the moon.
Palacio dorado, al este del sol y al oeste de la luna.
Even then, his logic remained sound.
Como él hacía esto todo el tiempo, era lo que era como
He knew the world was all in his imagination.
se ve que el mundo entero era producto de su imaginación. Y le siguen tirando pescado así.
But he was so proud of having created it. In his own eyes, he'd become something greater than a king. For someone who'd never known success in the real world, I think it was overwhelming. And then it struck him that the real Lewis was not the one chopping salmon, but the one climbing the steps of a golden palace. My imagination is as real as my body, he told me. It was hard to argue with him.
Que iba saliendo de la fábrica.
He began to forget the world we know. I think it pained him to remember Lewis, the cannery worker.
¿Viste? Supone que él
He began to despise the man with a royal contempt.
supone que eso es lo que está haciendo ahora. ¿Viste?
I still thought I could save him.
Pensaba que se cortara la mano, man.
Even after he said he was being crowned king over all the lands of wonder. The palace would be packed with his companions. including the wise Calico who'd insisted on advising him. His prince waited, holding his crown. There was only one thing left to do.
Concha tu madre.
Bend down his head.
Ahí se acerca. Dale nomás. Oh.
Le cortó la cabeza.
And the rest I think you know. Mrs. Finch, your son was a kind man who will be missed by all of us who knew him.
Qué brígido.
My brother was really cool. I wish you could have met him.
Al final tuvo que subir, ¿cierto?
Fue conchito madre que hace calor, hermano.
Sí, caleta.
Ya me voy a acostar yo.
Yo le iba a decir ya lo sentía ya que iban tan pronto.
My mom told me to start packing. She waited until the day before we left to tell Edie. I'm not sure if she wanted to make it easier or harder. I wish we'd stayed. But I understand why we left. My mom ended up leaving everything behind. What happened that night had been coming for a long time. Maybe it should have come sooner. But it had to end one way or another. All that's left now is to tell you about that last night.
Creo que le está mandando, escribiendo la carta a su bebé. Sí, al bebé de ella.
That whole last day, Edie just watched us pack and didn't say a word. Until supper, when she raised her glass and said,
"To our final night together, and all our final nights apart."
Grandma, you know what I said about alcohol. Some of your medications are very
Edith,
specific.
I left a present for you in the hallway. Why don't you go open it? The grown-ups have to argue now.
I'm sorry, you're right. We're all leaving tomorrow. Let's just enjoy our last...
I'm not leaving.
Edith, you're excused.
Estaba peleando con la mamá, parece. La mamá con la mamá.
The power had been shut off that morning, but Edie always had plenty of candles. When my mom sealed the library, I don't think she knew about the other entrance. Or that Edie had a key to it.
That thing you're afraid of isn't going to end when you leave the house. Edith has a right to know these stories.
My children are dead because of your stories. I think it's best if Edith and I leave tonight. We'll have the nursing home send a van for you in the morning. Okay?
Historia de Finch, Edith Finch.
Dear Edith, there's so many stories I wish I could tell you, but there's only time for one. This is about what happened on the night you were born. That night, the tide went way, way out. It was the first and last time I ever saw the old house aground. God, it smelled awful. You know, I've seen that house every day of my life. But I never thought I'd go back to it. When the fog rolled in, I lost my way. I got turned around. I started seeing things. Things I'd forgotten had ever existed. But when I saw them, they felt like old friends. That night, a lot of things came back to me. Or maybe I came back to them. Things I can't explain, but that I need you to try and...
Edith, what are you doing in here?
It's mine.
Edith!
Mom, you're gonna rip it! Let go! I kicked and screamed, but Mom dragged me to the car. I never saw Great-Grandma Edie again.
Oh.
The next morning, the van came to pick her up, but she was already gone. After that, we moved around a lot. We both tried to make the best of it.
Yo hacía lo mismo en el auto.
A few years went by. My mom didn't like to talk about it. But she started getting sick a lot. The rest happened pretty quickly. She got better for a while, and then she didn't. And then I was alone. The last Finch left alive. Until I found out about you. I'm still not sure what to tell you about all this. If we lived forever, maybe we'd have time to understand things. But as it is, I think the best we can do is try to open our eyes. And appreciate how strange and brief all of this is. This journal was supposed to be for you. But now I hope you'll never see it. I just want to meet you and tell you all these stories myself. But I guess if you're reading this now, things didn't work out that way.